Welcome back. Hi, I'm Chris from Rose City Originals, and I'm here with AccuQuilt in the Dream Studio today to help you make your first quilts. In this series, I'll walk you through step-by-step making your first quilt with your AccuQuilt cutter. If you haven't already watched episode 1, go back and watch that real quick, and then come back and we'll start sewing our blocks. Be sure to like and bookmark this video so you can refer back to it later. As a reminder, the pattern we'll be using is called Go Fundamentals and is available to download for free from the AccuQuilt website. There will be a link in the description box so you can go get yourself a copy. Before we begin today, let's gather up the tools we'll be using. First, we're going to need our sewing machine. Any basic machine that does a straight stitch will work. With our machine, we'll also want a new sewing machine needle, and I recommend either a 7011 or an 8012 size for piecing. And if your machine has a 1/4 inch foot or a patchwork foot, that can be useful too. We'll also need our coordinating thread. I'm using some Aurifil 50 weight in a neutral color. And lastly, we will need our iron and an ironing surface. Today I'll be using the Oliso M3 Pro Project Iron, which is available on the AccuQuilt website, along with a wool ironing mat. Last time we were together, we cut all of the shapes to make our quilt blocks. There are 3 different blocks in this quilt, and we're going to start with the most basic one, the 4-patch. For this block, we will need 2 of the larger print squares, and this is shape 1 from our Qube Mix Match cube, and 2 background squares of the same size. And we'll match those up with right sides together, or pretty sides together. When working with a solid fabric, there typically isn't a right side. In quilting, a 1/4 inch seam allowance is the standard, and what that means is that the stitches are a 1/4 inch from the edge of the fabric. Now, depending on your machine, there may be a 1/4 inch marking on the throat plate, or if you have a 1/4 inch foot with a guide. Either way, I do recommend just doing a quick test just on some scrap fabric to measure your seam. Simply sew 2 pieces together using whatever guide your machine has, and then measure it with a ruler. From there, you will know if you need to make any adjustments. Another trick you can do is put some painter's tape on the bed of your machine to mark that perfect 1/4 inch and use that as a guide. And now that we have our 1/4 inch all set, let's join our squares. We're actually going to be making 2 sets, each with a print and a solid square. As we're stitching, we'll want to remove those pins before they pass under the presser foot so we don't accidentally hit them with the machine needle. Now, as far as stitch length is concerned, I have my machine set on about a 2.5 millimeter. But anywhere between 2 millimeters and 2.5 millimeters is fine for general piecing. If your machine has a stitch width option, it should be set at 0 to get a straight stitch. So now I'll take this over to our pressing station, and with the print square on top, we're going to open the unit and press the seam flat. So this will force that seam allowance to be behind the print fabric or the dark side. And because we pressed the seam to the print side, the centers will actually nest, which means that the little bump caused by that extra fabric will help lock everything into place. So now that those are pressed open, we're going to lay these right sides together, alternating the print fabric and the solid, and matching up that center seam. And then we'll put in a few pins just to keep everything in place. And then we'll sew this edge with that 1/4 inch seam allowance. Now, when we go to press this seam, it doesn't matter which unit is on top. We'll just open it up and press it flat. There are a total of 4 patches in this quilt, so we'll go ahead and make 3 more the exact same way. Our next quilt block is called the uneven 9-patch. It's called uneven because the center square is wider than the outside squares. In a traditional 9-patch, all of the squares would be the same size. For this block, we will need 1 large print square, shape 1 from the Qube Mix Match cube, 4 small print squares, which is shape 2, and 4 background rectangles, which is shape 8. I like to start by arranging my shapes next to my sewing machine in the final configuration of the block. And now let me show you the magic of chain piecing. When you hear someone talk about chain piecing, what they are referring to is sewing your pieces together, one right after the other, without cutting the thread between them. So I'll add shape 2 to the short end of shape 8, and sew a 1/4 inch seam. So without taking it off the machine or cutting the thread, I'll start sewing my set of shapes. In this case, I'll add shape number 8 to the side of shape number 1, and I'll go ahead and sew those together. And then I'll go ahead and sew another set of shape 2 and shape 8. When chain piecing, you'll want to have a few stitches in between each set of shapes so you have something to snip and still a little bit of thread to hold the pieces together. Now let's head over to the iron mat, and with the print shape on top, we'll open these units up and press the seams flat. Then we'll head back to the machine to add the other shapes onto these rows. And then we'll press the same way so that the seam allowance is under the print. At this point, we have 3 rows, and we're going to join them together to create our final block. Because all of the seams are pressed to the print side, once again, these seams are going to nest nicely. So we'll go ahead and pin one of the skinny rows onto the center, lining up the edges and making sure that those seams are nested. Now we'll go sew that with our 1/4 inch seam. And now for this, we're going to press it towards the center row, and we'll repeat that with the other row. We'll again press this towards the center row, so we'll have that piece on top. And now we have an uneven 9 patch. There are a total of 4 uneven 9 patches in this quilt, so we'll go ahead and make 3 more exactly the same way. Our next quilt block is called the Sawtooth Star block. For this block, we will need 1 large background square, which is shape 1, 4 small background squares, which is shape 2, 4 background 1/4 square triangles, this is shape 4, and 8 of the small half square triangles, which is shape 5. Before I lay everything out next to my machine, we're actually going to make what is commonly referred to as a flying geese unit. We'll start with the shape 4, and all we need to do is add a shape 5 to each of these angled sides, but we have to do it in steps. So let's start by adding 1 shape 5 to the right-hand side of each of these 1/4 square triangles, shape 4. And now we need to press. But this time we're actually going to press these seams open. So with the right side facing down, first we'll run our finger over the seam to separate the 2 fabrics. We'll apply some slight pressure, but not too much. This is on the bias, so it can get stretched out of shape easily. And next we'll bring in the iron and press it nice and flat. The reason we're pressing the seam open is to help reduce the bulk in the final block. As you make more quilts, you will learn when you want to press open versus to the side. A lot of times, it's simply a personal preference. There's really no right or wrong way to do it. Okay, now that those are all pressed, we can head back to the sewing machine and add the other half square triangle, shape 5, to the other angled side. And now we'll press those seams open as well. And now we can arrange all of the shapes into our final block. So just like with the uneven 9 patch, we'll assemble this in 3 rows. So we'll attach the background shape 2 to the skinny end of these flying geese unit. And then we'll take this flying geese unit and make sure that the background triangle is pointing towards the center square. Attach that. Now when pressing these rows, the 2 skinny rows, we'll actually want to press out towards shape 2 in the background. And for the center row, we will want to press the seam towards shape 1. And the reason is because, again, the bulk in those seams. All right, now we'll go back to the machine and add the other ends. So we have our final shape 2 on the end of the flying geese row. a flying geese unit onto the center row, again making sure that that background triangle is pointed towards the center. And then shape 2 onto our final flying geese row. So again, we're going to press the seam out towards the corner squares. And on the middle row, it will be pressed towards the center. And just like with the uneven 9 patch, we will attach these rows, making sure to line up those seams in the edges. And now we're going to press that long seam towards the center row. So we'll put the center on top and fold it back. And again, press this towards the center. And there's our finished Sawtooth star block. And thankfully, this is the only one you need. So you are done making the quilt blocks. So I've given you a lot of information today, and I hope it helps you as you start your quilting journey. Now, with all of this information and advice I gave, I always say the right way to do something is the way that works best for you. We all have different styles and preferences when it comes to our quilting art. So please join me next time. We're going to put all of these blocks together with some sashing to make a quilt top. So until then, go ahead and work on finishing up your blocks. Be sure to hit that follow button for more videos, including tips and tricks for getting the most out of your AccuQuilt cutter. Thanks for watching. See you next time.